Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with Dave's Faves. And today I want to talk about a record that is just absolutely marvelous, Mendelssohn's Third, the Scottish, and Fourth, the Italian Symphonies, together with Leonard Bernstein and the Israel Philharmonic on DG. Now, I don't have that disc with me here in the empty apartment that I'm trying to sell. It's over in the boxed stuff in the new place, but that's okay. It's written down below so you could see it. Bernstein, among his many other gifts, because he was a genius generally and a really great all-around conductor, was a splendid Mendelssohn conductor. I mean, nobody thinks about anyone being a splendid Mendelssohn conductor, but they exist, and Bernstein was one of them. Charles Munch was another, but he was part of a generation, the end of a generation, really, where Mendelssohn was something that you knew how to do. He was one of those composers who was, billed with the all-time greats. He was one of the first romantics, and his music was something that conductors were raised on. Now that's not so much the case. Now he's become sort of like a period instrument specialty case almost. It's really kind of sad. Most of the new Mendelssohn cycles have been, I think, scarred by being done a la HIP, a la hip, played as if it were Bach or something. But Mendelssohn wasn't one of those. Mendelssohn was a romantic, a genuine romantic. Yes, he had tremendous training, and he was an incredible genius, and he had, he was one of those composers who began to develop the sense of the classical canon, the great works of the past that needed to be revived and that could be emulated. So he was a classicist in that sense, but he was genuinely romantic, and you cannot listen to the Scottish Symphony, for example, without being absolutely sure that he was a romantic. I mean, because it's dark and it's brooding and it's tuneful and it's passionate. And the Italian, which is sunny and colorful and fabulously scored, full of color and inventive use of timbre. I mean, that's what he was about. And back in the day when Bernstein and Charles Munch and some of these other conductors who were, the generation that matured or they were fully mature, let's put it this way, in the 60s and 70s, that's when they had their high point. They were actually active in the 40s and 50s, but, they died in the 60s and 70s for the most part. Bernstein lasted a little longer than that. They were trained to know their Mendelssohn. He was just one of those composers you did, and most of them did it well, just like they did Beethoven or they did Brahms or Schumann. You did Mendelssohn. See, today, I don't see that. I don't see a lot of conductors running around really making a thing out of doing Mendelssohn fabulously. And because we're so used to big, bloated, sort of fin de siècle excrescences of gigantism, like, Mahler and Strauss, and then, the 20th century people with these fabulous orchestrations for wonderful big orchestras, and that's wonderful. Believe me, I love that stuff. I'm not saying it's bad, but people don't believe that Mendelssohn can be an event, that his music can be like a feature. In fact, I may do that in fabulous concert programs. Maybe we need to do a Mendelssohn cycle. We really do, including some of the orchestrations of the string symphonies, something like that. Maybe we really should, because it's really top-notch music. And I mean, I don't need to tell you that, but it doesn't get conducted like that anymore these days, I think, which is really a pity. So Bernstein knew his Mendelssohn. He recorded the major Mendelssohn symphonies, 3, 4, 5, for Sony, and then he remade them for Deutsche Grammophon in Israel, and he did them wonderfully. They are just compelling. They are gripping. They have character and personality, and there is none of the, Steinian sort of tendency to be sort of pedagogical or exaggerate or that kind of stuff. They just flow, and they're natural and exciting, and they're played beautifully, and the recordings are a touch dry, because everything from Israel was, because if you've ever been to Mann Auditorium in Tel Aviv, trust me, it's dry. But it works for Mendelssohn, because the music needs that kind of clarity, and particularly, rhythmic clarity and timbral clarity as well. You don't want to have all this sort of slushy, echoey, wah, 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 ooby, gooby, dooby sound. You want You want precision, and you want accents, and you want punch and vigor. And that's what you get. Now, these recordings are available, or were available, on one disc, 3 and 4 together. That's not how they were originally issued. Originally, the Scottish came with the Hebrides Overture, because they're kind of related musically. And the Fourth Symphony came, I think, with the Fifth, with the Reformation, originally, because he did 3, 4, 5. But they were reissued. They've all been reissued. They were boxed. They're all over the place. And so you could get them together on one disc, but it doesn't matter. The point is the performances. I mean, I talk about them as being on one disc because it's a Dave's Fave. That's the one disc I really like, and I can play both of them. But you can find them separately or however you want to do it. But they are absolutely splendid, passionate, intense, beautifully shapely, idiomatic Mendelssohn performances, and so much more so than 99% of the dreck you hear today. They are a lesson that younger conductors would do well to heed. So keep on listening, friends. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care.